All right. Thank you for tuning into the live show. You know what time it is. It is your boy Genesis. Yes, I am back. It is currently 2:52 a.m. and today's date is the 2nd of January 2025. I was about to say 2nd of December 2024. But it is the 2nd of January, day 2 of a new year. Ladies and gentlemen, we got to get it. It is a new year. Let's go after it. It is a new year, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get after it. Okay, so of course you heard what happened during the New Year's Eve celebration in New Orleans, and a lot has been going on in the United States recently. I mean, it started from, this past 4 years. Everybody knows this past 4 years has been bunkers. Okay, I'm not just gonna say the Biden administration. However, the Biden administration really, caused a lot of discomfort and pain and lack to a lot of Americans. It is just the fact. I'm not trying to be a bearer of bad news, as well as it also made a lot of Americans wealthy as well. So it's just everyday Americans felt like they lacked a lot, and they also had a lot of price increase in their grocery bills, in their utility bills, and all that kind of stuff. So most Americans right now, everyday Americans, like the plumbers, the HVAC technicians, the truck drivers, the construction workers, these guys are so happy that the OG, the 45th, now the 47th president elect is back in the White House in 18 days. His inauguration is going to happen in 18 days, January 20. And of course, everybody's like ready to get that um over with because everybody's ready for a new change, a new face, a new leader in the White House, a new executive officer, a new chief in the White House, a new commander in chief in the White House. But with that being said, I hope you guys are having a wonderful night. And if you're watching, thank you for tuning in. Double tap your screen, subscribe to the channel. It is your boy Genesis. I am here. And of course, whew, breaking news according to CNN, death toll rises to 15 in New Orleans truck attack. This is sad, man. This is sad. 15 people lost their life in New Orleans. Um, this is based on the truck attack by the ex-military guy. So the last time when we were streaming about was it like 6 hours ago? Told you about this guy. Now CNN just got to the update because we already told you guys. I already told you guys this guy was a military guy, ex-military guy. But let's hear what CNN has to say concerning this issue.
Sudden terror on Bourbon Street.
There were just bodies and the screams. You cannot think about, unhear that. It was chaos and very, very scary.
Everything in the car is hitting, it's getting thrown.
The vehicle ran through a crowd of people. There's multiple injuries, multiple casualties. They need to canal in Bourbon.
Just hours after the clock struck midnight, the driver in a pickup truck went around barricades, according to police, killing those celebrating New Year's Eve along the iconic street. At least 15 people were killed, dozens others injured.
This is not just an act of terrorism. This is evil.
The suspect, identified as Shamsuddin Jabbar, a 42-year-old man from Texas who previously served in the U.S. military. He was driving a privately rented pickup truck from Turo, an Airbnb-type rental site for cars.
An ISIS flag was located on the trailer hitch of the vehicle, and the FBI is working to determine the subject's potential associations and affiliations with terrorist organizations.
Once the vehicle stopped, the driver reportedly opened fire on responding police officers.
Law enforcement returned fire, and the subject was pronounced deceased at the scene. 2 law enforcement officers were injured and transported to local hospitals.
Witnesses are asking questions about why the city's steel mechanical barricades weren't up prior to the attack.
There was police there at the entrance, a lot of police there, but the metal barricades were not up.
Bollards were not up because they are near completion.
The FBI, which has taken over the investigation, does not believe the suspect acted alone.
We're aggressively running down every lead, including those of his known associates.
And the Sugar Bowl for college football, scheduled to be held in New Orleans this evening, has been postponed.
All agree that it's in the best interest of everybody and public safety that we postpone the game for 24 hours.
And we are starting to learn more about the now 15 who were killed as a result of this attack, including 37-year-old Reggie Hunter from Baton Rouge. He had just texted his family Happy New Year a little earlier in the evening, according to his cousin, who tells us that he was someone who liked to laugh and tell jokes. He loved his family, loved his kids, leaves behind an 11-year-old and a 1-year-old just hours into 2025, Wolf.
Our deepest condolences to his family. Art Omar, thank you very much. I want to get right to our chief law enforcement and intelligence analyst, John Miller. He's getting some new reporting for us. John, what are you learning?
Well, Wolf, what we've been trying to do is develop a richer picture of who is the man behind this carnage in New Orleans. What do we know about him, and what can that tell us about motive? And what we've learned from multiple sources is that Mr. Jabbar apparently made, according to authorities, a series of voice recordings on video as he drove, they believe, from Texas to Louisiana to partake in these attacks, allegedly. The recordings talk about the turmoil in his family, the long-fought, bitter divorce he was going through. He discusses, according to officials briefed on the videos, where it appears they're made while he's driving, but it's in the dark, so you can't really see him on these videos, recorded apparently on his phone. But he talks about the idea of getting his family together for a celebration, which would have been a ruse so that he could kill all of them, but that over time, after having a series of dreams about joining ISIS, that he changed his plan to carry out this attack in New Orleans to create mass casualties in the name of ISIS. So what we're starting to see is an individual who was experiencing turmoil and stressors in life, who was going to act out in some kind of violent way, and at least, according to what they believe are his own words, decided to do this as an alternative to killing his family. In the recordings, he also has a last will and testament where he divides up what little money he has left after all the financial losses and setbacks he had suffered to family members. So they're beginning to get a picture of what was going on, and it seems to be what was going on in the background of this individual's life that was as much of a driver as any commitment to terrorism.
Yeah, John Miller, great reporting as usual. Stand by. I'm going to get back to you in a moment or so. I want to get some more now on the federal investigation from CNN's Evan Perez. Evan, authorities have released a photo of the man identified as the driver of the truck that plowed into that crowd in New Orleans, killed 15 people, and injured dozens of others.
That's right, Wolf. And that photograph is being put out there by the FBI in part to try to drive tips from the public. They have asked, they've set up a website, fbi.gov/Bourbon Street attack. They are asking the public to send in any information, any videos, anything about where this suspect may have been over the last several days, over the last several weeks, as they were developing this plot. And we also know, obviously, as we've reported previously, that he was an Army veteran. He served in the U.S. Army from 2007 to 2020, both in active duty and in reserve status. He actually deployed to Afghanistan in 2009 for about a year into early 2010. And, you know, again, part of the picture, as John was just describing, you know, is coming into focus now for the investigators. A lot of his problems and whatever might have been his motivation to then associate with ISIS, which is clear, according to the investigators, that is exactly what his intent was, again, is what's driving all of this. Wolf?
And I know, Evan, you're also getting clarification from law enforcement officials on possible accomplices.
Right. The FBI is still trying to determine whether there's anybody else who might have been involved. Obviously, they know that he was trying to associate with ISIS. It's not clear whether he was talking to anybody in particular to try to plot this attack, or whether, again, this was more of a self-directed of the type that we've seen before. We also know, Wolf, that they were looking at video, surveillance video, that showed 4 people who they at least thought initially could have been involved with maybe some of the IEDs that were found elsewhere in the French Quarter. The FBI later determined that those people had nothing to do with carrying out this attack. So at least for that part of the investigation, that part is closed off. They are still, however, looking into the possibility that there are other people who could have been involved, again, in either helping to construct the IEDs or who may have known about his plans before he carried it out. All of that is still on the table, Wolf.
What more are we learning about the man who was driving this truck that was used as a deadly weapon last night?
Well, piecing together much more of a profile of Shamsuddin Jabbour, Wolf. And what we've been able to learn, we've culled from public records as well as videos and information he himself has put online. What you're looking at here is an image of him from a YouTube video posted in 2020. It has since been taken down. This video, he has titled it Personal Introduction. He says that he was born in Beaumont, Texas. He talks about his service as a member of the U.S. Army, so he's an Army veteran, and his work in information technology as well as working in real estate. He says in that video that serving in the military taught him, quote, the meaning of great service and what it means to be responsive and take everything seriously, dotting I's and crossing T's to make sure that things go off without a hitch. In that video, he is sitting next to a poster titled Discipline and near a book titled Leadership. Now, authorities do confirm that he served in the U.S. Army. We do have a picture of him from that photo that was posted on Facebook from the U.S. Army. This is a picture of him in 2013. It's a Facebook post from the U.S. Army again, and he's identified in this photo as an Army Staff Sergeant working.
Thank you for tuning into the live show. You know what time it is. It is your boy, Genesis. Double tap your screen, subscribe to the channel. What does this say about the U.S. military? I mean, I'm just asking questions, okay? I respect everybody who has ever served in the military. I respect our veterans, okay? Because they keep us safe, home and abroad. This is just a question to everybody watching right now. Chat. Put it in the chat right now. What does this say about the U.S. military? It's just a question. Let me know.
As an information technology team chief for the 82nd Airborne Division's 1st Brigade Combat Team, and that was back then in 2013. He also posted an online resume where he describes how he graduated from Central Texas College in 2010 and he received a bachelor's degree from Georgia State University in 2017. Georgia State does confirm that he did attend there and did graduate. And Texas records also show that he had a real estate license from 2019 and it expired in 2023. And then the last thing, Wolf, that we found really interesting, because it sort of lays the financial picture of his life currently, is that he was in a divorce with his first wife, and that in 2012, she had sued him for child support. But in 2022, he had submitted an email talking about how he was struggling financially. He wrote that he had fallen behind in house payments, that he feared that he was nearing foreclosure, that he was behind more than $27,000 in payments. He also wrote that the business that he had talked about in that YouTube video, that it had also not made money. He'd lost $28,000 and he was $16,000 in credit card debt, Wolf.
Lots of new information. Kyung-La, thank you. Omar Jimenez, thanks to you as well. I want to break all of this down with our law enforcement experts.
Now, you know, some people in the chat say once you're out, they don't give a F about you. Now, according to what they're saying now on CNN, is this guy was in $16,000 in credit card debt, and his wife filed like a petition for him, or some sort of lawsuit saying she wants to get child support. But that, you know, a lot of people are on child support. That's not the reason why he definitely did this. I mean, come on. I mean, because you're getting sued for child support. That's why you did this. I don't know. Okay, I don't know how his mental health was. Nobody knows. Okay, because like I said, and like you've heard, this guy was in the military, so we don't know how his um mental health was. So your ex-wife suing you for child support did not cause this. Nah, this a lot of people are on child support, like for thousands of dollars, not doing what he did. But and don't forget, they actually saw a ISIS. This is according to every news outlet in the United States, Fox, CNN. They actually saw a ISIS flag in his truck and a bunch of IEDs. Okay, so I mean, come on, your wife suing you for child support is not gonna cost you to put ISIS flag in your truck. It's just what it is. So he was fantasizing, according to these guys, he was fantasizing. He wanted to join ISIS for some reason, but he was also in the US. He served in the US military. So how did he transition in his mind from loving the United States to trying to join ISIS? What happened? That's the question right here. What happened?
Andrew McCabe, let me start with you. What are the next steps right now for the FBI, and you're a former deputy director of the FBI, as they try to determine who the individuals placing these improvised explosive devices in the area are?
Absolutely, Wolf. That is priority one for the FBI right now, to identify and locate those individuals who they have captured in the surveillance video, placing the IED devices, which at least two of which have been rendered safe, and therefore are probably providing the Bureau with some evidence that they can use to compare to the device and the other evidence that's been recovered from the truck. And so they may have a solid forensic connection between the IEDs, which would only confirm their suspicion that those three men and one woman are related to or working in concert with the driver of the truck. So that's the biggest potential threat the Bureau is probably focused on right now. And they are doing all the things that we have seen in these sorts of situations in the past. They are scouring video coverage to try to locate those folks and track their movements last night as they led up to the moment of placing the IEDs. They're trying to locate places to search. They're trying to locate individuals who might know something about those folks. So it's a lot of activity going on focused in that direction.
Critically important information they got to find out. Mary Ellen O'Toole, you're a former senior FBI profiler. What could these IEDs tell you about the perpetrator's intention? Does that suggest to you that a larger attack was indeed planned?
Certainly, and thank you for having me on. The IEDs will be very important, both from a behavioral as well as a forensic perspective. So forensically, the Bureau will be dismantling these devices and looking to see if they were likely each constructed by the same person. Bombers often have a signature, so they will be looking to see if it looks like one person put them together. They'll also be looking for things like fingerprints and DNA that is left over on these devices. That becomes extremely important. But at the same time, behaviorally, they'll be looking at who are they aware of? Is there someone already out there that has come to their attention as someone that is a possible bomb maker in another case or in another incident? So they'll be looking at that as well. And I think through the behavior and through the forensics is another way that they will be attempting to identify who this person is. And I think based on what they've already said about these IEDs, they were not just made to go off and make a loud sound. They were actually designed and constructed so that they would actually be weapons of lethality as well. So that goes to the intent of the people that were involved in this.
I stand by. Charles Ramsey is with us as well, the former Washington, D.C. police chief, former police commissioner in Philadelphia. Chief Ramsey, what are the challenges for law enforcement right now as they try to secure the French Quarter in New Orleans while conducting this investigation?
Well, first of all, we all know the French Quarter goes beyond just Bourbon Street. So you've got a pretty wide area that I'm certain that they are searching and trying their best to secure. Certainly, we're talking now about a vehicle attack But again, you've got a lot of pedestrians, especially this football game coming up. You have a lot of people that'll be walking there, which makes them vulnerable. So they delayed it a day to go over their security plan, to do the best they can, to probably push that perimeter out further, certainly lock it down from any vehicle traffic and things like that. Nothing's going to be 100%. I mean, that's just the way it is. But clearly, the steps that were taken yesterday or early this morning were insufficient. When you look at that one video, the way the truck was able to just easily maneuver past that patrol car, they're going to have to reevaluate an awful lot when it comes to securing major events.
Good point. Andrew, let me go back to you. Investigators have also found writings that support investigators' view right now that the suspect was inspired by ISIS. How critical is that in this investigation?
Well, Wolf, it tells us a lot about what brought that person to that moment in time, and it can also tell us about others who they may have interacted with, people they may have prepared devices with, they may have prepared for this attack with other people, trained with other people, received support from other people. So everything that this subject wrote left behind in terms of his own writings, his own activity on any devices, any electronics devices, telephones, that sort of thing that may have been seized through the searches we've seen taking place throughout the day. All of those items are going to help them get one step closer to the 4 other people they know they have to find, and potentially others. There may be other people involved in this plot who did not appear on that surveillance video that we've been talking about for the last couple of hours. So they have a lot of intelligence that they need to collect and analyze to get a full picture of whether or not a critical threat to security still exists. We will not know the answer to that until we can confidently state whether or not he's worked with other people, and do we have those folks under control or in some sort of custody.
We're just getting in some very disturbing new video of someone walking out of a bar on Bourbon Street in New Orleans shortly after the attack. I want to play that for you and for our audience. Watch this. Juliet, what do you make of the truly harrowing?
It is the first day of the year, and this is what we get. It is the first day of the year, 2025. Well, actually, now it's day 2. And take a look at what's going on. This year, 2025, man, it is going to be something. I ain't even going it's going to be something. God dang.
Situation seen in that bystander video.
I mean, I think what you're seeing is people who are trying to get out of a car going, I think at this stage they're measuring over 40 miles per hour and getting them just simply out of the way of the vehicle. And this is why the question of the permanent barriers is going to come up, because look, these security measures always have to be upgraded, and we're hearing that this was a security upgrade, possibly in anticipation of the Super Bowl in a couple weeks. But New Year's Eve came before that, and so if you have barricades, temporary barricades, permanent barricades, and then the third level tends to be sanitation trucks or whatever. You have that layered defense. All of them are intended to essentially try to slow down a car. What we're seeing in those videos is that none of them worked. He was, to quote the public officials, hell-bent on killing and got on the sidewalk. And there will be questions about whether that couldn't have been impeded in some way. But these are normal questions to ask. And I think these are questions that New Orleans will want to ask as it moves forward in its preparation, for example, for Super Bowl in a couple weeks. Look, this effort came out of 2016. Almost every city did not have this until the major attacks in Paris in Nice and Berlin using vehicles. And lots of cities then got very creative in protecting open areas like this. They may have to be reassessed or fortified again, given the vehicular attacks that we're seeing these days.
Yeah, that's so important. Michael, the Louisiana governor says the Superdome and the surrounding area in New Orleans is safe. How can they be so sure about that if they don't think the attacker was necessarily solely responsible?
Well, we know we're looking for potential other offenders who could have helped him, but they're sweeping the Superdome multiple times to make sure there are no explosive devices. Just like when Super Bowl and Sugar Bowl are there as many times as they've been there, we create ingresses and egresses that are secure and people get searched and checked on the way in. And I am sure now that they are going to create an ingress plan that does not allow any vehicles other than people who are authorized to come in, and those are going to be checked, to come into that area. Everybody's right. In 2016, when this happened in Nice, the mayor of New Orleans said, I want to.
Don't forget, the Sugar Bowl was supposed to be what date? The Sugar Bowl has been postponed, and people are getting terrified and saying, why was the Sugar Bowl postponed? Well, this is why it was postponed, because of this right here.
Fortified this area, and we then invested in those bollards to be put up there. But we also use big trucks and other city vehicles to really fortify the area. They're going to be doing that again for Sugar Bowl and again for Super Bowl to make sure only people who have to come and can come and are authorized to enter an area can be there with vehicles.
CNN has just obtained surveillance video showing the moment that a suspect drove a pickup truck onto Bourbon Street in New Orleans. Now, before we show this, we do want to warn you, it is disturbing because this is the beginning of the attack that killed at least 10 people and injured 35 more. This clip is showing Canal Street at 3:16 a.m. local time. The truck is seen going north with a large pole attached to the rear. The suspect then passes what appears to be a law enforcement car and then rapidly turns right onto Bourbon Street and accelerates through a group of people. Let's go now to CNN's Tom Foreman. Tom, you spent many years in New Orleans. Help us understand the magnitude of what was happening in the French Quarter at the time of this attack.
Well, Bourbon Street in the French Quarter really is the heart of this city that lives on tourism. If you look at what happened to the approach to this, this makes it look smaller than it is in some ways. You see this come up this road here and turn. This is over here on Canal and turn in. And then when it starts moving into this area, this is all the French Quarter in here. The actual, when it says it hits the crowd here, if you look at the pictures, it actually seems to have gone further than that before it actually reached a stopping point somewhere up in here, so about 3 blocks. So this is a 4,000 to 5,000 pound vehicle. It's an electric vehicle and accelerates to 60 miles an hour in 4 seconds. So there would be a tremendous number of people here, especially during Sugar Bowl time. And this is not that far actually from the Superdome, which is right over here. You could wind your way over here pretty quickly to get where it happened. And many, many, many tourists here because of the hotels that are there, the restaurants that are there, the clubs that are there, the bars. This is a busy, busy, busy area anytime. And one of our witnesses said, typically, even on New Year's Eve, you see the crowd spread out a little bit after midnight. Some of them said, really at 3 a.m., it was still pretty much the way it had been. So a tremendous number of people. If it had not run into that red crane-like device you see, if the truck had not hit there and had kept going, the crowds down here on Bourbon would have only grown more dense, and who knows how heavy the damage would have been, how many people would have been killed. Real key here, though, one thing I want to point out, the city started this program to replace what are called bollards. You've been hearing it all day long. The bollards are these metal posts here that are rising up. They started this back in November to put in new ones because the old system wasn't working well enough. The purpose of these is to stop people from being able to drive down that street. Usually they're retractable in some fashion. That process was underway with a goal of having it done by the time of the Super Bowl, which is going to be a little more than a month from now. It was not complete. One of the complaints they had was that the truck went up on the sidewalk around a police car that was here, obviously completely an inadequate stopgap measure, and that's why it's the way it is. And now they've got Mardi Gras coming up and Jazz Fest coming up, more big events, millions of people here. and they haven't shown yet they know quite how they're going to deal with this kind of threat.
Ed Lavandera is in Houston with more on the suspect's ties to the state. What are you learning, Ed?
Hi, Pamela. Well, for several hours this afternoon, a number of law enforcement authorities have been here in this far North Houston neighborhood that has been cordoned off. And according to local officials and FBI officials, they have been searching a home that is.
So how are they supposed to handle Super Bowl? Because we gonna have to find out how they're gonna have to handle Super Bowl. Because how will Super Bowl guests be protected? Because look, okay, it's just what Super Bowl is supposed to be February 9th. All right, so if this is going on right now, and you know Super Bowl has way more crowd, it's gonna attract way more people in the city of New Orleans. So it's like, okay.
Address is connected to this suspect that carried out the terror attack in New Orleans. FBI officials also confirming that this search is related to that investigation. And as you mentioned, we're learning more about this suspect, who in several various sources that we've been able to comb throughout the day, the suspect had been battling some financial troubles, worked in real estate and information technologies systems, and studied that as well. But in court documents we've been able to reveal, he talked about the financial struggles that he had been going through in recent years. From 2019 to 2023, he had a real estate license here in Texas, but in court documents connected to he was sued by the mother of two of his children back in 2012 over child support payments. And in some of those documents, we've learned that in recent years he talked about being carrying debt of nearly $30,000, owing credit card debt, and also struggling to make payments on his home. We've also come across a YouTube video that was posted back in 2020 about the time that he was getting into real estate here in Texas. The video is described as a personal introduction, and this is what he said on that video.
So I'm born and raised in Beaumont, Texas, and now live in Houston. And I've been here all my life, with the exception of traveling for the military, where I spent 10 years as a human resources specialist.
And Pamela, you know, this is back here in this North Houston neighborhood where officials here have been very tight-lipped throughout the day, not saying much exactly as to what has been happening here at this search, but that this search continues, and it's been going on for several hours now. Pamela?
All right, thanks so much, Ed. I want to go now to former FBI Supervisory Special Agent Rob D'Amico. Rob, Ed just laid out the suspect and his history. How does someone like that become so radicalized and do something like this?
Well, I think part of it is these groups are very good at getting to people that want to blame someone. It goes across the board. He was having tough times. I think there's probably some mental illness that's going to come across the radar with him, but he's going down a slope. He wants to blame someone, and these groups are great for placing the blame on others and then getting them to act on it. We've seen it in the white supremacist movement. We've seen it in the terrorist groups. They're very good at that, and that's how they recruit them, and then that's how they get them to take action. So I think you're going to see probably when it started to the spiraling effects that we saw from him finally taking action. Obviously, if he's planning to kill his family, the mental health issue is there too, and I think it's a combination.
Yeah, he said in the recordings, according to our John Miller, that he at first thought about bringing his family together for a celebration and then killing them. And then he decided to move off that plan and join ISIS. I want to show you this video, and I just want to warn all of our viewers here. It is graphic, and it shows Canal Street at 3:16 a.m. local time. The truck driver is seen passing what appears to be a law enforcement car before rapidly turning onto Bourbon Street and smashing into innocent people. When you watch that video, is there anything that stands out to your trained eye?
Well, one thing is I made a comment back in December when the vehicle attack in Germany happened. And I said, even if it's not a coordinated event, you are likely to see this trigger someone who's been thinking about it to do something. And I think that's exactly what happened. And they should have planned better. I hate to go back, but like if you couldn't get a vehicle close to Times Square, they blocked those roads off with dump trucks and sand trucks and cement trucks, everything that a vehicle like that's a pickup truck's not going to get through, because they know they need to protect that inner space. So I think you're seeing things that this city, I don't want to say they didn't take it seriously, but if you're just going to put one car, I guarantee if the sidewalk wasn't open, that pickup truck could have pushed that one patrol car. That was traffic enforcement. That's not blockading a vehicle with someone with an intent to do this. And I think it's going to change it. Like 9/11 changed air flight security. This event is going to really change some of the ways that they look at true security of large gatherings of people where they're vulnerable.
Rob D'Amico, thank you. Very sad we have to learn this way, but that is our sad reality. Thank you so much.
For tuning into the live show, you know what time it is. It is your boy Genesis.
President Biden saying that
A lot is
officials are now
going on.
investigating.
A lot is going on right here in the United States. A lot. And it is sad to see, but it's a new year, 2025, and this is what is going on. It's happening in New Orleans, but also in Las Vegas. A Cybertruck that was filled with fireworks exploded. Okay? Cybertruck that was filled with fireworks exploded in the front of Trump Tower in Las Vegas. Take a look.
Whether there is a link between the deadly terror attack in New Orleans and the Tesla Cybertruck explosion.
And guess what? Y'all, guess what? Did you know, did you know that the same car company that rented out the truck to the guy who did the chaos in New Orleans is the same car company that rented out the Cybertruck for the Cybertruck that actually got exploded in Las Vegas in front of Trump's store. Well, people are saying it's not like this. The car renting company knows. It's like, I think the name is Turo. I think it's Turo. I mean, everybody has rented car on Turo. I have rented cars on Turo, but Turo people actually got this car on Turo. The Cybertruck was gotten on Turo, and the truck was gotten on Turo as well, rented out on Turo.
That happened outside of Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas. This is some new video of that explosion. You see it there outside the Trump Hotel. The driver of that vehicle was killed. 7 others were injured. And we now know that that Cybertruck was rented in Colorado.
We are learning from our John Miller that according to multiple law enforcement officers, this person who died in this attack, the driver of the Cybertruck, has a military background. Now, authorities say they do know the name of this driver, but they are not releasing this person's identity until they notify the next of kin. But they did say that this person rented the Cybertruck in Colorado via Turo, drove the Cybertruck down to Las Vegas, and was in Vegas for about an hour before it pulled in front of Trump Tower in the Valet area when that explosion happened. We were able to see video that they released that shows the explosives that were contained inside. Right there you can see the Tesla bed, the Cybertruck bed. And some of those explosives included fireworks, gas tanks, and camping fuel. And all of that was connected to a detonation device that was controlled by the driver. Now,
So, you cannot even make this up, guys. So you mean to tell me that this person actually had the mentality, the idea that they wanted to explode themselves in the Cybertruck in front of Trump's store? And they were military as well. So the guy that did this is military. The guy that did the one in New Orleans is military as well.
incredible
wrong,
that the
y'all.
sheriff pointed out is that the explosion was really contained to the Cybertruck because of the way that the Cybertruck is built. Apparently, the explosion went upwards, not outward, and so none of the glass at the Trump Tower was broken. 7 people were injured with minor injuries, but all of them are okay and they have been released from the hospital. Now, Las Vegas police believe this was an isolated incident. They are not willing to say broken. 7 people.
Yo. Did you hear when they said the Cybertruck glasses did not break? Even with all the explosion, the Cybertruck glasses did not break. Is that what I just heard? Yeah, I'm buying a Cybertruck. I'm buying Cybertruck. I don't care what nobody say.
Were injured with minor injuries, but all of them are okay and they have been released from the hospital. Now, Las Vegas police believe this was an isolated incident. They are not willing to say at this point that it is connected to the New Orleans incident, but they are investigating. And it is unusual that both drivers did use the Turo app to rent those cars. So obviously this is part of the investigation. We did really receive a statement from Turo tonight that says they're cooperating. They also said that neither of the drivers had a criminal background that would alert them as a security threat. Brianna?
Yeah, lots of questions here. Veronica, thank you for that. With us now, former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe. We have former Assistant Secretary of Homeland Security Juliette Kayyem and former Boston Police Commissioner Ed Davis with us. Andy, you have President Biden confirming tonight officials are investigating whether there's a link between these 2 attacks. So we've talked about some of the similarities. What are the things you're looking at that could point in that direction?
Well, so far, Brianna, we have 2 not necessarily relevant similarities, right? We know they both went to the same rental car agency, essentially this online service that facilitates private citizens leasing their own or renting their own cars to people. So they both use that same service. And we know that they both have military backgrounds. But again, these are things that could easily have been coincidence. That's not to say that these 2 events are not related. They wouldn't be investigating that very question if they thought it was something that wasn't possible. And if it turns out, and again, this is a big if because we don't know that at this point, but if it turns out that these 2 individuals knew each other, then we have a very significant issue on our hands here. That points to a conspiracy, coordinated effort that spans a large area, right? 2 very different states. We know the Las Vegas attacker started in Colorado, drove to Las Vegas and detonated that truck there, whereas the New Orleans attacker started in Houston and ended up, of course, in New Orleans to commit his attack. So connecting these 2 would be highly significant, but we are not quite on the verge of doing that at this point. We need a lot more detail to figure out if there are actually any interactions between these 2 people. Law enforcement has many resources, intelligence resources, law enforcement resources at their disposal that they can push against to see if there are any indicators that. I'm sure they're doing exactly that tonight.
Yeah, and Juliette, according to our John Miller, both the alleged Vegas perpetrator here and this New Orleans suspect, as Andy mentioned, had military backgrounds. So they both appear to be veterans. Both electric vehicles, both rented on Turo, as Andy also noted there. Explosive devices in both. I think we should note that, although the suspect in New Orleans was not able to detonate them before police took him out. There's also potentially some differences here. So where does that lead investigators as they're looking for further concrete links?
Yes, I think the connections that you and Andy describe, as well as just the fact they're on the same day, not many hours apart, would lead any investigator and any federal entity to determine whether there were linkages. Was there some coordination around timing and methods and means? But there are also a lot of differences. For one, the second attack in Las Vegas, sort of you combine Elon Musk and Donald Trump and the Trump Tower, that suggests someone who had a political focus against them or wanted to make a statement about one or
X.
both of them. That's not a coincidence. Elon Musk and Donald Trump, and that terrorism towards them, right, and the violence that was perpetrated presumably because of them is a form of terror, of course. And we've seen the former and future president, also be the victim of 2 assassination attempts. So this seems different as compared to what in New Orleans, which is very similar to what happened in Europe, right? That in France and Germany and elsewhere, where a car is simply used to mow down a lot of people. In this instance, and also utilization of a gun and other things where you have an individual or a number of individuals who are motivated by terrorism, but maybe also in this case by other things. And that's what we will determine and what will be learned. Why is this relevant? It's a very different threat environment if this was coordinated for the nation. It just is. But if there are explanations for both, that are limited to both of them, it does make the American public feel differently about the threat environment.
It certainly does. Ed, it's possible that law enforcement is poised to find out a lot of information because they are waiting on federal authorization to search a Houston home that they believe is connected to the New Orleans suspect. And authorities are saying they're hours and hours away from being able to enter that home. What are they looking for? How quickly do they need to get in there?
Hi, Brianna. It's really important that they get in there as quickly as possible. The attorneys will be assisting in writing up the documents and making sure that everything meets constitutional muster. And that can be done fairly quickly. I'm sure that overnight there's going to be leads that are developed. In every case that we have, the investigators work around the clock to make sure they're getting everything that they can. And I was often awoken at 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning with the latest information. So all of that is in process right now. And my colleagues have said exactly the right thing. It is critically important that the investigators run down this potential link and also look at social media, look at any writings that they're going to find, and importantly, look at who his circle of friends are and acquaintances, people that he's been in contact with, and that information will come from the house. And then you can just very slowly and methodically go through each one of these individuals and question them. The other thing it's important in this case is it is such a high-profile case that anybody who had contact with this man will be reporting things to the authorities, and I think that's where we get a lot of our leads in a case like this.
And Juliet, the New Orleans. Sorry, go on. Oh, I'm sorry. I think I heard feedback and thought you were chiming in there, Juliet. I do want to note the New Orleans suspect made this series of videos talking about joining ISIS, also wanting to kill his family. He had an ISIS flag with him. Now, we do have these questions of whether there are some connections. Do you expect that we are going to learn that there were big red flags before this attack?
I think so. Part of it is going to depend on 2 things. One is the radicalization process. There's lots of, was it relatively quick? It's honestly, it seems like what we know now, it was relatively quick, so that there might not be lots of tentacles to investigate. It may be also ISIS took advantage, or ISIS or people on social media, of a person who was searching for a cause to reflect his anger that he clearly had against his family. So when we say ISIS, there's a lot, or connections to ISIS, there's a difference between ISIS directed, which we saw in Paris or Berlin or elsewhere, and ISIS inspired, someone who is just finding meaning. It makes a huge difference for our purposes in terms of what are ISIS's plans here? Are they now launching another wave in Western cities and Western European cities, as well as the United States? And so it goes to the most important thing, which is New Orleans safe now, or is Las Vegas safe now? They are, again, going to hold a major event tomorrow night. I think they should. They will increase security there. Whether this is a person who felt that they needed to do this because they were motivated by the language and violence of ISIS as compared to directed. That's a very significant difference for the victims and for the city of New Orleans right now.
This right here, it is absolutely sad. But the fact is, even if it's not ISIS per se, as long as you can see that he had ISIS flag in his truck, you better know that it may probably be ISIS. It could probably be ISIS. So when Trump gets back into power, the first thing I think he needs to be doing is figuring out if ISIS still exists. I'm sure he's already doing it right now, though. And also, we got to think about January 20th, the inauguration day. You think it's safe? Because I don't know at this point. Look, I don't know, y'all. Excuse me. I don't know if the inauguration is going to be safe at this point. Look, Jesus. I don't know, man. I just don't know. Because if this is going on right now, and Trump is a very, very strong figure, but I don't know. Dear Lord Jesus, man. Let it just, God damn.
To all the families of those who are killed, to all those who are injured, to all the people of New Orleans who are grieving today, I want you to know, I grieve with you. Our nation grieves with you. We're going to stand with you as you mourn.
So here is Biden addressing the nation concerning the New Orleans attack and the people that lost their lives and the families.
And as you heal in the weeks to come, I want to thank our brave first responders and law enforcement personnel who stopped the attacker in his tracks before he could kill or injure even more people. And I want to thank you to everyone at the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Justice, including the FBI, for working nonstop to investigate this heinous act. The FBI is leading the investigation to determine what happened, why it happened, whether there was any continuing threat to public safety. Here's what we know so far. The FBI has reported to me the killer was an American citizen, born in Texas. He served in the United States Army on active duty for many years. He also served in the Army Reserve until a few years ago. The FBI also reported to me that mere hours before the attack, he posted videos on social media indicating that he was inspired by ISIS, expressing a desire to kill, The ISIS flag was found in his vehicle, which he rented to conduct this attack. Possible explosives were found in the vehicle as well, and more explosives were found nearby. The situation is very fluid, and the investigation has a preliminary stage. And the fact is that right now, there you go.
Or excuse, Mr. President.
The law enforcement and intelligence community are continuing to look for any connections, associations, or co-conspirators. We have nothing additional to report at this time. The investigation is continuing to be active, and no one should jump to conclusions. I've directed my Attorney General, the FBI Director, the Secretary of Homeland Security, the head of the National Counterterrorism Center, and the intelligence community to work on this intensively until we have a full and complete information. And once we have that information, I will share that information as soon as we can confirm it. Additionally, we're tracking the explosion of a cyber truck outside the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. Law enforcement and the intelligence community are investigating this as well, including whether there's any possible connection with the attack in New Orleans. Thus far, there's nothing to report on that score at this time. I've directed my team to make sure every resource is made available to federal, state, and local law enforcement to complete the investigation in New Orleans quickly and to make sure there's no remaining threat to to the American people. And we'll support the people of New Orleans as they begin the hard work of healing. New Orleans is a place unlike any other place in the world. It's a city full of charm and joy. So many people around the world love New Orleans because of its history, its culture, and above all, its people. So I know, while this person committed a terrible assault on the city, the spirit of our New Orleans will never, never, never be defeated. It always will shine forth. We've seen that time and time again throughout its history, and I know we'll see it again in the days and weeks ahead. May God bless the people of New Orleans. May God bless our police and our first responders. May God protect our troops, and we'll keep you fully, contemporaneously informed. Thank you.
Have you spoken to President Trump?
Of course, he answers no question. Of course. Of course.
Chaos at the southern border. 3 migrants have been arrested for allegedly killing a Mexican immigration agent after he asked for their IDs. While Texas DPS arrests 11 illegal migrants from Venezuela, Colombia, and Mexico as more rush to cross before Trump takes office. The incoming border czar, Tom Homan, joins us now. Tom, you're the hardest man already in the incoming Trump administration. You're up early. Happy New Year. Thank you for joining us. Let's get right to the news. Tom, you and I have talked extensively about what's happening on the Mexican side of the border, but this assault on the INM agent there, just about 30 miles south of Ciudad Juarez, is something that we typically don't see. Your reaction to that?
Well, I think we may see more of it. I mean, the President Trump, I'm not speaking for President Trump, but, he's going to take action against the criminal cartels in Mexico. Criminal cartels in Mexico have killed more American people than every terrorist organization in the world. So that, we're shutting down the border. It's going to put them out of business. So I think you're going to see more violence on the border in the beginning. But it's something we certainly have to do. We got to secure the border because it's the biggest national security vulnerability we've ever seen in this country. So I think we're going to see more cross-border crime in the beginning. But, it's something we expect and something we're going to have to deal with because we have to secure that border.
And, the past 4 years have given us these unprecedented chaos numbers. There's nearly 11 million migrant encounters now at the Biden-Harris, under the Biden-Harris administration. That doesn't even include the 2 million known gotaways, which could be even higher. And Tom, the New York City mayor here, Eric Adams, that has met with you, that has pledged to work with you again last night, talking about looking for ways to help get this under control. Here's a little bit of what he said yesterday. Listen.
Those who violate their privilege to be in this country by committing serious violent acts should not be in our country. And I've made it clear that I'm going to do everything possible to protect New Yorkers. I did it as a cop. I'm going to do it as the mayor of the city of New York. We're looking at every option we have, either through executive orders or if we can get help from Albany. I think they're moving in the wrong direction. If you're in this country, you should be in this country not to harm New Yorkers.
Tom, have you had any more conversations recently with Mayor Adams, and what are some of those options to try and deal with these sanctuary jurisdictions that might try and stand in your way?
Well, Mayor Adams is trying to do the right thing. The problem is he has a city council that doesn't want him to work with ICE. But he is committed on a couple of things. Number one, he's committed to working with public safety threats with ICE, having his officers with us shoulder to shoulder to arrest public safety threats in that city, because that's what we're going to prioritize day one. Day one, right out of the gate, are going to be public safety threats and national security threats. He agrees with me. There's plenty in New York City. He wants to make New York City safer. He's also committed to helping us find over 300,000 missing children. Children that many are going to be in New York City. These are children that were, trafficked into the United States, released by the Biden administration to unvetted sponsors, and now they can't find them. Many of these children are going to be in forced labor, forced sex trafficking. Some will be just fine, but we got to find these children, save them, and get them back with their families. And third, he's considering the executive order to get us back into Rikers Island. I mean, I used to when I was ICE director, we had 12 agents assigned to Rikers Island. We would take hundreds of criminal aliens out of Rikers Islands every month. And now we have no presence in Rikers Island because of the sanctuary city law. But he's talking about doing executive action and get us back into Rikers Island, which is arresting a criminal alien in the safety and security of a county jail. It's much safer than going into the community and finding a bad guy on his turf who has access to who knows what weapons, right? So being inside the jail is safe for the alien, it's safer for the officer, and it's much safer for the community. So those are the things we're talking about getting done.
And in particularly the migrant communities, like in the case of the Venezuelan migrant community, being plagued by the Tren de Aragua gang members that continue to grow across the country. You mentioned ICE, Tom, the current acting ICE director, PJ Lechleitner, taking action, we learned yesterday, ending a couple of programs that basically were providing social services to migrants, the Wraparound Stabilization Service and the Young Adult Case Management. Basically, in a nutshell, this was millions, if not tens of millions of dollars that the current administration decided to implement, and ICE decided it wasn't effective. I'll give you the last 10 seconds. Your reaction to that.
This administration is spending millions of dollars not to detain people, and this program didn't detain people. Detaining people is cheaper for American people. Immigration ICE beds are much cheaper than any of these programs they came up with. So, in the Trump administration, we'll be using those ICE beds.
We look forward to following it.
There you have it. Somebody in the chat says
with a new report.
Somebody in the chat says 18 days to go, and they're afraid of what's going to happen next. I know, right? I know. I am more concerned about the day of inauguration. They better make sure Trump is fully protected. Like, fully protected. I don't know, man.
That the vicious Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua are mobbing border crossings at El Paso, Texas, in an attempt to break into the U.S. before Trump takes office. And they've attacked border agents who have tried to stop them. According to the New York Post, at least 20 TDA members tried to force their way into the U.S. last week, attacking border agents with knives, tire irons, and broken liquor bottles. Texas officials reportedly believe another break-in is expected later tonight. They were alerted by an anonymous informant who said the violent border break-ins by the gang would continue every night around 3 a.m. One retired Homeland Security agent describing the prison gang like this, quote, "They hate the United States just like terrorists do, and they will kill, destroy, take over businesses, take over stores, and take over apartment complexes, do whatever they have to do to destroy our way of life in the U.S." And the new violence is happening just miles from the scene of this migrant riot back in March. These migrants were not armed gang members, but several Texas service members were still injured in this blitz. Now, incoming border czar Tom Homan says it's time to deport Tren de Aragua and make America safe.
President Trump is committed to secure the border and save lives. We're going to run a deportation operation. We'll get rid of Tren de Aragua that killed so many young ladies in this country. We're going to get rid of criminals. We're going to get rid of gang members. We're going to make this country safe again. President Trump's going to make this country safe again. We're going to make the border great again. We're going to make this country great again. We're going to do the best thing we can for America, and that's secure border. Secure border saves lives.
All right, we'll bring things to the panel. I think the clear start here would be with Nicole on this issue. I want to get your thoughts as this is a really terrifying new report and what our border agents are facing.
It's very, very dangerous there at the border, and I cannot tell you enough how much we need to have gratitude for what those law enforcement officers are trying to do. They are trying to put their safety behind public safety, and Governor Abbott recently named Tren de Aragua a foreign terrorist organization group, and that is that's a big deal. And that does allow law enforcement to put more resources, more funding when the threat is at the highest level, then they can actually go and address the threat. And that's what Americans need right now. And I am a Texan, and I can respect the fact that Texas has taken the brunt of this migrant issue and this border crisis. It is absolute chaos. But good for Governor Abbott to get in there and say, you know what, enough is enough. And what is disturbing to me is that this.
But to think that Trump has said this over and over and over again, the Tren de Aragua member situation. It happened in Colorado, and he said it. He said it. And people were like, this is a racist, is a this, is a that. This is what he doesn't like brown-skinned people. He says things 6 months, a year, 2 years before it actually happens. And people are going to be like, oh, well, we didn't know. It's like he's told you that the people coming into the United States are worse than the American gangs. He said it a lot of times. Did you see the guy that set a woman ablaze on the subway? Isn't that just worse of the worst?
This administration has fought him every step of the way. I mean, why is this even a political issue? We're Americans. We should want our country to be safe, and particularly Texas. So I do respect that he did name it a foreign terrorist organization group. Tren de Aragua has affected all cities nationwide. We've seen it in New York. You've seen it in Aurora. It's very, very dangerous. They have no respect for human life, and we cannot tolerate this anymore. And with the Trump administration coming in and Homan, the gig is up. They know that they need to get in as quickly as possible, and that's why you're seeing this blitz at the border in the very last moments.
Dr. Siegel, thank you for joining us, being our man in the middle today. Nicole raises a great point. We're talking about the spread of something. In this case, a gang. They've been noted to be in at least 19 states all across the country. Your thoughts?
Couple of points. Agree with Nicole. It's a terrorist group. What does terrorism mean? Not only does it cause great havoc and damage, but it scares everyone. So it creates a whole sense of unsafety around. And that's why Homan's great, because he's out there talking a big talk, and they're going to follow it up with action. The other part of this that worries me is the countries that these people are, that these gang members are coming from. Venezuela is feeding this. They have an airlines called Conviasa, where literally the migrants get on the plane and come over here, and they get reimbursements, international reimbursements, for sending people here. And then they use a false narrative that it's all because of the sanctions in place in these countries, when in reality, it's repression. It's elitism over there, where the rich get richer and the poor suffer, and then they escape to a country that uses that word in the Biden administration, asylum. Asylum, instead of the words that we're going to be using now, which is a country with secure borders.
And Carrie, the Trump administration is vowing that these plans are going to start going in the other direction, and mass deportations will be underway, particularly focused on criminals such as gang members.
Exactly. Criminals, public safety, terrorists. Tom Homan's been very explicit about that. But I think they understand that they need to stop the bleeding. You get me, Dr. Siegel, right? So stop the bleeding, cauterize the wound, and that's how you're going to make Americans safer. So instead of incentivizing all of these people to come here, you must deter. No incentivizing, deterrence, deterrence, deterrence. We see it in the geopolitical stage. It works there. It's going to work at our borders, too. And I do think it's worth repeating that these next 20-ish days or so, we are extremely vulnerable, as Nicole said. That's why they're rushing over the border. They're opportunists. Terrorists are opportunists, first and foremost. We know they look at soft targets, first and foremost, as well. And they're going to come over as much as they can because they know a new man is going to be in the Oval Office, and he's actually going to attempt to deter them.
Yeah, there are enormous costs involved, costs to our society, but also monetary costs. And Lauren?
They're expected, this prison gang that's been in existence for 10 years as they expand.
One thing is for sure, as soon as Trump becomes the 47th president of the United States, because right now he is the 47th president-elect. So as soon as he gets into the White House, there will be a lot of National Guard in the United States, like basically on the streets. This is just my predictions, okay? This is not facts or truth or whatever. This is just my own opinion. I am guessing that there would be some serious protection on ground. I'm saying National Guard. Like the National Guard may be like the next police, like the way I'm saying heavy. Because this next 4 years is going to be very consequential. Because every country would want to try some. Everybody would want to try, like test some type of. Everybody want to test, okay? People don't want smoke with Trump. However, it's like people are going to try you.
And expand. They're expected to be in 25 states, so half the country by February. So they're trying to get in, as we all point out right now, before Tom Homan and Trump come in. Tom Homan says, I know where they are. We're going to deport them. If we can't make a deal to get Venezuela to take them back, we're talking to other countries. Someone is going to take them back, but they are already here.
Yeah.
They're in half the country, and they're scaring people because they are a terrorist organization.
Yeah,
and we can't afford that because these aren't the migrants that are taking our jobs. These are the migrants that are scaring us and harming us.
Yeah, Lauren has a great point because it's 19 now, it was 16 a month ago, 25 is the prediction just around the corner, Nicole.
I just think that, again, now is the time to act, because it's the problem that we have is that we are sitting ducks, because the damage that has been done under this administration. Love Tom Homan. I love his message. I love that he says we're going to clean house and we're going to deport. Unfortunately, the damage has been done, and it's going to be difficult to weed all of these people out, particularly the criminals. You know, people are concerned about the.
Thank you for tuning into the live show. You know what time it is. It is your boy Genesis BTK. Shout out to BTK for the super chat. Thank you, thank you, thank you. BTK says Biden doesn't care about the U.S. national security. According to BTK, this is what BTK suggests, and he says this is his own opinion. Okay, so I sort of kind of agree with you, BTK. Okay, and thank you for the super chat. Yeah, I ain't gonna cap, man. Like, we need adults in the White House, and we need a commander-in-chief in the White House. A commander that comes on stage and everybody knows you ain't gonna be effing around with this person. You are not going to be effing around with the United States, with its people. Don't even bother. That's the kind of commander-in-chief we need. And that's what I see in Trump. And this is why I voted for Trump. And people are like, oh, why did you vote for Trump? I voted for Trump because I know a commander-in-chief is supposed to be a diplomat. He's supposed to be a macho man, and he's supposed to be an alpha male. This man is an alpha male. He's not effing around. He ain't effing around, okay? Nobody wants to F around. He's already talking about making Canada the 51st state of the United States. I mean, who talks like that if you're not a commander-in-chief? He's not even the president of the United States yet. Justin Trudeau is flying to Mar-a-Lago, his personal resident, Trump's personal resident, to kiss the ring. Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, everybody wants to have a dinner date with him, like he's their dad or something. Like, everybody wants to have a dinner date with him. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we do have membership, so now you can join the membership of the channel. It is $4.99. So join the membership if you like the content, if you like the community. I see a lot of people come here and they say, I like the community, I like to chat, and I like to get my opinions heard in the chat. We hardly block anybody, okay, because it's free speech in the United States. But if you would like to join the membership of the channel, where we have exclusive content coming this month, and in 2025, we're going to make a lot of exclusive content for our memberships. And of course, our subscribers. But memberships are going to be priority. So if you want to join the memberships, it is $4.99. Join the membership of the channel, $4.99. God bless y'all. But with that being said, it is 2025. And may God protect the United States. May God protect our troops. May God bless the United States. And I'm hoping for a better 2025. And I know this next 4 years is going to be consequential for sure. And let's just hope for protection and peace in the United States.
This deportation, he's starting with the most violent criminals. These are people that are taking American lives. This is what we should want. We should want them gone. But again, it's like a game of hide and seek. They've been coming in for 4 years, almost welcome. People think that they're welcome here. And they've been coming in, and all of a sudden, we have to track all of them down and say, you are no longer welcome. It's time to go.
And there are some communities vowing that they're not going to be cooperating.
You know, Nicole made a great point about our Custom and Border Protection Agency.
And that's another thing, like mayors, city councils, some governors saying they're not going to be cooperative. Like, what do you mean you're not going to be cooperative with Donald Trump and with Tom Homan? The president of the United States, the commander-in-chief, is telling you, get out of our way and let's work. It's also telling you, help us take out the illegal immigrants in the United States. And these guys are saying, you know what? We're going to protect the illegal immigrants. What are you talking about? Does that even make any sense?
It's being at risk. They're already overwhelmed with all of this. Now they're at physical risk and physical harm. And then you have the National Guard. You got to wonder about the U.S. military being.
Another thing is the Biden administration, they always take the little things and make it big. The big things, they make it small. Big things are small stuff to them. Small things are big things to them. Like securing the border is small stuff to them. Oh, it's not a big deal. Yeah, little things like call her they, her, she, them, use my pronouns are the big things to them. Like, how does that even work?
Directly involved in this.
It will be a fascinating year ahead, and there are a lot of our law enforcement that deserve all of our thanks. Hey, everyone.
It is what it is, y'all. It is what it is. Yeah, we better buckle up because yeah.
Now this, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has rejected a reported peace deal involving.
Now, of course, you've heard a lot about Elon Musk being a national security threat. This is what people are saying is a national security risk because what he has clearance is sending rockets to space, and a lot of people are just intimidated by how wealthy he is, and of course, he is aligned with the 47th president-elect.
Involving Ukraine and NATO, with that deal being made by Trump advisors, we are told. Retired Lieutenant Colonel James Carafano joins me now. And Colonel, I don't know the details. I know, not many people do, but it's not an encouraging sign, is it?
Well, look, when the Russians say no to something, the next deal you offer them has to be a lot worse. You have to deal with the Russians from a position of strength. And I got to tell you, the Russians are bluffing. There are huge cracks in Russian power. They are taking enormous casualties on the battlefield, and their economy is not doing well. And they're never going to conquer Ukraine, and they know they're never going to conquer Ukraine. So this tough act from Lavrov, who, by the way, is just a drunken sock puppet anyway, is just a joke.
Okay, we do know that Russia and Ukraine, by the way, swapped 300 prisoners, but Russia continues to try and sabotage Ukraine's critical power line. So, I mean, they're continuing to grind this thing out. But to your point, I mean, are we at a stalemate or is Russia starting to make gains?
I think both sides are at strategic exhaustion. Neither one's going to collapse.
Yeah.
But neither one has the resources to really drive a decisive outcome in this conflict. That's the reality for both sides. That's why President Trump's plan is to say, look, there needs to be a ceasefire here because this is a no-win situation and innocent people are dying. And you both need to stop because both your countries could collapse. Russia could collapse from within. Ukraine's just going to get bled, but we're going to keep supporting it. Ukraine will never die, but it'll wind up on life support forever. So there are no winners in this conflict, and it needs to stop.
Do you think Russia ends up with some more territory of Ukraine's?
Well, the number one rule for a deal is never give Russians anything at the negotiating table that they didn't win on the battlefield. So if you give them one concession, 1 inch of ground, one good thing out of this, that they didn't fight and earn, then you made a bad deal. And there's one thing we know about Trump. Trump likes to make deals. He doesn't like to make bad deals.
Yeah. No, he doesn't. I got to get to this issue very quickly. Retired Lieutenant General Russell Honore warning that Elon Musk's influence in government poses national security risks. In a recent op-ed, the retired general says that Musk's business dealings with China actually poses a threat. I mean, what do you say to that, General?
Russ is an old friend and a great guy, but just because you're retired and a general doesn't mean you have good advice. The reality is lots of people are doing deals with China. It's, are you corrupt? That's the question. Joe Biden was doing deals with China. He was corrupt. There's two things that make me optimistic. One is all of Trump's dealings with Trump have been enormously transparent, which I think is very healthy. That when they agree and disagree on things, they say it in public so we know what they're talking about. The other thing is, in the end, the American people got Donald Trump elected president. He borrowed millions of voters to win that. If he's going to keep them, he has to deliver for the American people, not Elon Musk. So I don't think the Musk-Trump relationship or Musk's role in government is going to be a problem at all, ever.
I don't think it's going to be a problem as well. However, Elon Musk is an asset to Trump, and that's just facts. That is 100% facts. But everybody has their own opinion about stuff. However, let's watch the Trump Tower Cybertruck explosion updates. Let's see. '23.
Metropolitan Police Department. I'm here to give you really a brief update on what occurred on Las Vegas Boulevard this morning. As you know, we just had our New Year's Eve event where we successfully protected the city, where over 400,000 people were here last night. And that changed this morning at about 8:40 when a 2024 Tesla Cybertruck pulled into the area valet of the Trump International Hotel. Very quickly thereafter that, the driver, who was the sole occupant of the truck, we saw what looked like maybe some sort of smoke, and then the truck exploded. Smoke was coming from inside of the truck after we noticed the flash and the explosion, and I'm gonna show you that first video. That's the Cybertruck parked right in front of the doors. Can you play that again, Carlos?
Must have been very loud as well.
So the individual that was in that truck is obviously deceased, still in the truck as we speak here today. Our fire department folks, Engine 12, a number of others, you'll hear from one of the fire chiefs here in just a moment, arrived very quickly along with my officers. And obviously we knew that we had a much larger event than just a vehicle fire. And so there's going to be a drone video that plays to my left again. You'll see as the fire initially, they covered it with the tarp to try to get it to go out. Once the fire went out through the suppression efforts of the fire department, you'll see some of the evidence in the back of the vehicle. So those are gasoline canisters. They are camp fuel canisters and
obviously
large firework mortars. What I also would like you to pay attention to on that video, as you see that, it looks like the exterior of that truck is completely intact as it sits there. The fact that this was a Cybertruck really limited the damage that occurred inside of the valet because it had most of the blast go up through the truck and out. In fact, if you look on that video, you'll see that the front glass doors at the Trump Hotel were not even broken by that blast, which they were parked directly in front of. You can see that in the video there.
And that's just wild. This is why I will get the Cybertruck, okay? God, listen to my prayers, okay? Thank you. I will buy the Cybertruck because to think about the fact that this kind of explosion happened and the Cybertruck was still intact, like it's still standing. It's not like gone. You know, some cars will be like pew, pew, all over the place. But this guy is still standing with 4 tires. Yeah, this is about to be one of the greatest truck ever made in the United States.
What I will update, I'm very well aware that there's a name already been reported out into the media. I am not going to confirm any names to you as I sit here today because I cannot do that with 100% certainty of who the individual is. What I can tell you is we do know the truck was rented in Colorado. We were able to trace that truck through the Tesla charging stations, and it arrived here in Las Vegas this morning at about 7:30 and went up and down Las Vegas Boulevard before immediately pulling into the Trump Towers. Unfortunately, there were 7 people that reported injuries during this incident. All of them still remain as minor injuries and were treated at UMC. I would like to thank the Resorts World because, as you know, we had to close down the Trump and evacuate it, as well as the Fashion Show Mall. And the Resorts World was very gracious in taking those hundreds of individuals in over there, housing them and feeding them prior to us being able to.
And this is what I always say. Like, this is supposed to be a tragedy, of course, the explosion, the Cybertruck explosion. But look at the photo. Look at the doors. Look at the side mirrors. Look at the tires. Just look at the stands of the Cybertruck. Elon is probably going to use this as a commercial on X and say, buy the Cybertruck and get protection and be protected from explosions. Oh my God. Your buildings will be protected from explosions. This is what the Cybertruck is doing. Like, this is an ad. I know it's sad. Obviously, this is a sad thing to happen to the people over there and in Las Vegas, the explosion and like the smoke, everything. But like this right here is just straight up an ad for Elon Musk and the Cybertruck team.
Completely clear the hotel. The hotel and fashion show are back open for business. The Trump will remain closed as we continue this lengthy investigation as we move forward. I'm going to yield now to Chief Billy Samuels, but I'd like you to also recognize all of our exceptional elected officials that have come to support the police and the fire department and this community in remaining safe.
And that was the explosion. For the person that said it wasn't really a big explosion. It was because the Cybertruck contained it inside. I mean, isn't this commercial? Isn't understanding this Cybertruck commercial? I mean, I'm not saying this is I'm just saying like this could pass for a commercial.
There is no further threat to the community as I sit here today. And I just want to make sure that our community understands we believe this to be an isolated incident, and it is now over as far as the danger. So, Billy?
Thank you, Sheriff. I'm going to reiterate some of the stuff that the sheriff has spoken.
And someone said in the chat saying that Elon cannot use it as an ad because someone actually died in the Cybertruck. The person that actually died in the Cybertruck was the person who had explosives. Even a better ad. That's a better ad, y'all.
Upon Engine 12 did arrive within 4 minutes of dispatch, did extinguish the fire with assistance from the sprinkler systems, and along with that electric vehicle blanket that we use on those operations. We did encounter 7 victims.
That's true. That's facts. The lady on the left, that lady is definitely Nancy Pelosi's family member because she looks exactly like Nancy Pelosi. Somebody say it looks like Nancy Pelosi's sister. Is that Nancy Pelosi's sister? Probably. She looks like her.
All stable. 2 of them were transported to UMC, who have since been released. They were transported by community ambulance. A total of 13 units from Clark County Fire with 26 personnel, and then 4 units and 17 personnel from Las Vegas Fire and Rescue assisted with this operation. We always do appreciate the support that we get from our hotel partners, as the sheriff was mentioning with Resorts World. RTC did lend us 10 buses so we can refuge the people that were evacuated from the Trump Tower. Community ambulance for their transportation for us, Las Vegas Fire and Rescue, and Nevada Division of Emergency Management. And we do appreciate their support, so we can't do that without them. And like the sheriff said, last night was a huge success, but we are prepared for whatever comes our way. So thank you for that. And I will turn this over to Special Agent in Charge, Jeremy Schwartz.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeremy Schwartz. I'm currently the acting special agent in charge for the FBI here in Las Vegas. The FBI is currently conducting an investigation on a vehicle explosion, as the sheriff had just shown you a little bit ago. That's being conducted through our JTTF, which is a Joint Terrorism Task Force. I want to make sure everybody understands that the task force is comprised of law enforcement officials from the entire valley here. We're not doing anything alone, and we wouldn't do anything alone without our partners making sure that we're all in lockstep. We've learned from mistakes in the past, and we're not going to do that again. We have a great relationship with our law enforcement partners, and we're going to continue to do so. As of right now, our number one goal is to ensure that we have the proper identification of the subject involved in this incident.
And that's fact. Somebody said like 40 years younger than Nancy Pelosi. And for people who don't know, Nancy Pelosi is 84 years old. And she was still saying like 2 months ago or last month that she wanted to run again. But mama, you are 84 years old. What are we doing right here? Come on, mama.
Following that, our second objective is to determine whether this was an act of terrorism or not. I know everybody's interested in that word and trying to see if we can say, hey, this is a terrorist attack. That is our goal, and that's what we're trying to do. We have a ton of resources dedicated to this right now, and again, we're doing it with our partners. We're doing it together, jointly, and we'll continue to do so until we figure out exactly what's going on. I think most importantly, as the sheriff already mentioned, we believe this is an isolated incident. We do not believe that there's a bunch of folks out there supporting this or helping this, and we don't believe that there's any other danger to the community right now. But again, over the next few hours and days, we will continue to do our best to research that as much as we can and get to the bottom of this, and we won't stop until we're 100% certain as to what happened and why. Thank you.
So I just want to clarify again so that I don't get these questions. We do know who rented the truck. We are looking at that individual, but I am not prepared to release the name of any of the individuals that we are looking at least until next of kin is notified and we have a 100% identification. So with that, I'll take any questions you might have. I can't see. Hi, Dana.
Do you think it's a coincidence that there were these kinds of incidents on the same day, basically, in two tourism capitals?
Do I think it's a coincidence? I don't know. But what I can tell you is we're absolutely investigating any connectivity to what happened in New Orleans, as well as other attacks that have been occurring around the world. We're not ruling anything out yet, Dana.
Sure. Is there any possibility that this had a link to ISIS? There have been suggestions that the New Orleans attack might have.
Yeah, so the question is there any links to ISIS? And I will tell you that we don't have any indication of that here in Las Vegas. No overt ISIS flag as was seen in New Orleans. But again, we are investigating every aspect of this. And if that comes to light, we'll.
You guys are saying that somebody just said in the chat, no coincidence to see here. So you mean like you don't think this is. Oh, you mean this is actually related? Okay, I get you now, Jerry.
Certainly update you. I'm sorry, sir.
What was the time between the truck's arrival and the explosion?
About 1 hour was the amount of time between the arrival of the truck here in Las Vegas, or at least our first notification of the arrival and the explosion that occurred at the tower.
How long was it in the porte-cochere before the explosion?
It was only there for about, it was sitting in the porte-cochere for about 15 seconds before it exploded. Was that 15? Where'd Dory go? The 15 to 20 seconds. I just want to make sure I gave you the right info.
Of the Elon Musk, Tesla, Donald Trump connection to be interesting from an investigative perspective?
Well, I mean, it's a Tesla truck, and we know that Elon Musk is working with President-elect Trump, and it's the Trump Tower, so there's obviously things to be concerned about there, and that's something we continue to look at.
Have you all found re-examined security procedures at hotels?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked that question. Do we need to re-examine security procedures? We were very successful in the night before. I'm surprised this happened, to be quite frank with you, and that's certainly something we're going to have to look at in target hardening, what that looks like. But to your question, Dana, I did forget to mention that I...
Come on. Look at that Cybertruck. Look at the doors. Look at the side. Intact. Intact, y'all. Tires are intact. Yeah, there's no way somebody's not going to figure out how to use this for an ad very soon. You better know social media. Social media, especially on X, they're going to figure this out and make it an ad real fast.
Have authorized what we call an ABX roster to continue for the next 2 days, which is my New Year's Eve staffing plan of over 1,000 officers, both in our community neighborhoods as well as on the Strip and downtown, in partnership with all of the other law enforcement agencies, City of Las Vegas Marshals, North Las Vegas, Henderson, just to ensure that even if we had a copycat or somebody else wanted to go up and conduct an attack, that we have the appropriate and available resources to handle it.
Have you all found any devices inside the
off those explosives?
No, the question is, did we find any devices that would be used to set off the explosives? And the answer is no, I don't know how they were ignited. Clearly, with what you see in there, something set them off, but I don't know what it was yet. We haven't been able to process the vehicle yet.
Has LVMPD been in contact with Tesla Co. to get analytics from the vehicle cameras?
Yes, actually, I have to thank Elon Musk specifically. He gave us quite a bit of additional information in regards to how the vehicle was locked after it exploded due to the force of the nature of the force from the explosion, as well as being able to capture all of the video from the Tesla charging stations across the country, and he sent that directly to us, so I appreciate his help on that. I'll take one more question. I'm sorry, you got to speak up for me.
Yeah, Elon is doing heavy duty stuff right here.
Elon Musk is saying this vehicle and the vehicle in New Orleans were rented from the same company. Has there been any other indication that these two events might be associated?
It's another. The question is both vehicles? I'm being told New Orleans was rented from Turo, and so was ours. That's another coincidence that absolutely is continuing to bear from our investigation that we have to continue to look into. So thank you very much. And as we get additional information for all of you, I'm sorry, I'll give you a shot.
Are your investigators using any of these city license plate readers this evening?
That's the question is, are we using the license plate readers and the technology? Well, one, you see the drone flight through the vehicle because it was unsafe to get there, so that we're using that technology. Thankful to have it, as well as the first indication of that vehicle arriving here in Las Vegas came from a license plate reader. So technology has been very useful to us in resolving this. And again, I'll commit to come back to you all when we have confirmation of the suspect's name, who they are, what their background is. We will get that information back out to you. We'll call another press conference and provide it. I just like to.
Now, this is the type of press conference you give after something like this happens. You talk about the updates, you say the information that you already know, and then you say the information you do not want to divulge. You say, you know what, we know this person's name, but we don't want to tell you. And then also it's like, unlike Biden's update. But later it came out and he gave a proper update, so shout out to Biden. Anyway, this lady right here, Nancy Pelosi's lookalike, she just keeps looking at this guy.
Again, thank the mayor, the commissioners, the other law enforcement leaders, and of course.
All right, back to New Orleans. This is the updates from
today at approximately 3:15 a.m. Central Standard Time. An individual drove a pickup truck into a crowd on Bourbon Street in New Orleans, killing at least 10.
Visit our police officers, and considering their injuries, they're doing well. As I mentioned, this investigation is ongoing, and the FBI remains the lead in the investigation. It is an active crime scene as well. We are committed, no doubt, to uncovering all details surrounding this tragedy. And we're taking every necessary step to put even more safety procedures in place, especially given the nature of the investigation. I'm going to ask people to do not go around our secured area if there is no essential need to do so. It matters, and again, it is an active crime scene. I also want you all to know that the Greater New Orleans Foundation has set up a fund to assist victims, and that information will be provided to you. Thank you, Ganoff. Again, I want this unified team. We're leaning in. We will be relentless, and we will do everything that it takes to render real justice. This team will. I want to also just thank our citizens for your heartfelt prayers. New Orleans is a world-class city, and I can say that I've heard from world leaders all this morning and up until now, in addition to my brother and sister mayors across this country. They're calling, they're responding, and they're standing with the city of New Orleans. And what they always say and want me to reiterate, they understand the resilience of this community. And we're strong in that regard, and I will say second to none. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our governor, and as I mentioned, who has not wavered any in leaning in, providing the necessary support, and standing right with me, and I say thank you, Governor. And I know the First Lady is standing with us as well.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you. Again, I want to thank the mayor. Since about 3:45 this morning, when she called me, we have all been working just around the clock to both secure the city and to solve this act. You know, again, I want to reiterate that our prayers go out with all of those who have been affected by this tragedy. I want to thank our law enforcement officers. I want to thank our medical personnel. I want to thank our first responders. And most importantly, I want to thank the two New Orleans police officers who not only laid their life on the line, but were able to eliminate the threat this morning. Let me say, we have made public safety a state priority from day one. And I think that if you look around me today, right now, and you look at the people who are standing around, that is their commitment as well. We intend to be transparent in assessing any defects that may have existed in the system so that we can address it. It's the only way to ensure that any mistakes that were made are corrected. Specifically, we have been trying and working very diligently to address security concerns in preparation for the Super Bowl since October. And it's interesting because, ironically, in preparation for the Super Bowl, I had intended to issue an emergency declaration tomorrow so that we could bring all of our federal, state, and local agencies to bear in preparation for the Super Bowl and Mardi Gras. But because of the events today, I have amended that emergency declaration and issued it today. So again, that declaration will allow our federal, state, and local partners to bring all of the resources necessary to get this city safe. In light of that executive order, I have also ordered the mobilization of a military police company. I've asked General Freelou to mobilize a military police company to assist both New Orleans Police and LSP and the FBI. It is important for our citizens and guests of this state to know that we are doing everything we can to secure their safety in this city. We want to make it clear, the Superdome and the surrounding area is safe. But I've always said that the safety of this entire city is something that is always paramount to me. With that, I would like to turn it over to Jeff with the Super Bowl. Jeff Duncan.
Good afternoon. Obviously, we wish we weren't here for this reason today. The Sugar Bowl Committee has a 90-year history of being a good corporate citizen for the city of New Orleans, and that's why this tragedy hurts us as much as anybody right now. So our condolences, thoughts, and prayers go out to the victims and their families as we all work through this. Of course, anytime we have a major event in the city of New Orleans, public safety is paramount, and we have full faith and confidence in the governor and the mayor and all the assets, the federal, state, and local resources that they've applied to this event so that we can ultimately bring those responsible to justice and carry on with the major events that we have in front of us. Speaking of which, we were scheduled this evening to have a CFP quarterfinal played in the Superdome at 7:45. We have been in consultation with ESPN, with the College Football Playoff, with the Southeastern Conference, with the University of Georgia, with Notre Dame. All parties and all agree that it's in the best interest of everybody in public safety that we postpone the game for 24 hours. Work is fast about to set up a safe and efficient and fun environment for tomorrow night. There'll be more details on that in the coming hours, but for now, that's the plan, that we're going to move forward and play the game. And again, we reiterate our thanks to everyone up here for the important work they're doing. We live in the fun and games world with what we do, but we certainly recognize the importance of this, and we're going to support it 100%. So thank you.
I'd like to bring up Senator Kennedy. I wish I understood better why bad things happen to good people. If I make it to heaven, I'm going to ask. For those people who don't believe in objective evil, all you have to do is look at what happened in our city early this morning. I am, if this doesn't trigger the gag reflex of every American, every fair-minded American, I'll be very surprised. I'm here because these are my people. I'm here because these are my people's friends. I'm here because there are a lot of Louisianians that are scared tonight. I don't want them to be. There's a lot of information going around. Some of it is actually true. Some of it isn't. The federal government is now in charge of this investigation. By that, I mean the White House, the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, and the Department of Justice. I have not talked to the FBI. Maybe they've talked to my staff. I don't know. I did talk to the Secretary of Homeland Security a little while ago. And I told him that with all the respect I could muster, that we expect to put the full force and resources of the federal government behind this investigation. Our state troopers, our local police departments, our sheriffs, we've got many sheriffs here today, have been terrific so far. The federal government is cooperating with them. I hope that will continue. Here's what I want to ask from the federal government. Catch these people. Catch these people. And then tell the American people the truth. Now, I don't want you to tell us yet anything that's going to interfere with your investigation. And there are things that I've been told that I think are true that I'm not sharing with you today because it could interfere with their investigation. But after we get to the bottom of this, they need to tell the American people the truth. And the people of New Orleans the truth. And the people of America the truth. I think the mayor and the governor are very wise to postpone this ball game for 24 hours. There's just too much stuff we don't know. And it's just not worth it. But I guess my final point is, I will promise you this: I will, when it is appropriate and this investigation is complete, you will find out what happened and who was responsible, or I will raise fresh hell, and I will chase those in the federal government who are responsible for telling us what happened, like they stole Christmas. Thank you, Senator Kennedy. Congressman Carter, I think.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Senator Kennedy. Thank you to all of our law enforcement agents for doing a yeoman's job, for stepping up at a time when we needed you most, for employing the resources of all of our partners. This is all hands on deck, from the White House all the way down. I've been in communication with the White House since early this morning, Secretary Mayorkas, leaders in all of our federal, local, and state agencies. The president has made it very clear that he intends to bring every resource to bear to not only tell the truth, but to provide the resources to bring these cowards to justice. I want to personally thank the men and women in uniform who put their lives on the line to protect our citizens and our visitors. To our mayor and our governor for acting expeditiously and bringing us all together. To our sheriffs from the surrounding areas who have been Johnny on the spot, recognizing that if it happens in New Orleans, it can happen anywhere. We don't have the luxury of being myopic. In this community, we work together. We don't point fingers. We don't blame. We go after the bad guys. Let it be clear that the full faith and credit of the United States and every agency therein is on the ground, working. And for those who may have played a role in this horrific act of cowardice, we will find you. We will bring you to justice. New Orleans is a place that heralds its ability to protect its citizens, that heralds its ability to manage major events. Super Bowl, Sugar Bowls, Mardi Gras, Jazz Fest, Essence Festival. You name it, no one does it better than law enforcement in New Orleans and in the surrounding area. Kudos to those 2 officers who've been wounded. Our hearts go out to those who lost loved ones. Our hearts go out to those who are wounded and on the mend in the hospital. Citizens, now is the time to stay calm, to be vigilant. This is not a time to come out to sightsee. Listen to your federal, local, state officials. Be vigilant. If you saw something, say something. If you know something, tell someone. There are tip lines, there's information available. Please, all hands on deck. Rest assured that the decision that was made to postpone the game was not done lightly. It was done with one single thing in mind: public safety. Making sure that the citizens and visitors of this great city, not only for this event, but for every event you come to in Louisiana, that you will be safe. And we will use every resource possible, as the governor has said, as the mayor has said, and every law enforcement agent here has said. Our energy, our commitment will be to make sure that you are safe now and for every event in the future. God bless you, and let's stay strong.
Really?
Attorney General.
I first want to extend my sincerest condolences to the families of the victims. Parents got a phone call early this morning, that no parent ever wants to receive. And as a parent of children who come to New Orleans and spend time here, I know that that is just something that, you know, we hold our breath sometimes till they're home safe, and some people did not come home safe. And we also have some people who are fighting for their lives right now in the hospital. So I'd ask everyone to pray for them. They need our support and they need our prayers. This was a heinous act, a heinous, cowardly act, and we will find them and we will bring them to justice. My office will be providing both investigative and prosecutorial support to the city of New Orleans, to the district attorney, Jason Williams in New Orleans, as I have done for months. We will continue to do that. We will provide the governor with whatever support that he needs, and the governor's office of Homeland Security, whatever support that they need. I'll be here to help. I will be here to stand with the city of New Orleans. We will bring them to justice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Governor and Mayor. For those who do not know me, my name is Ann Kirkpatrick. I'm the Chief of Police of New Orleans. My official title is Superintendent, but my role is as Chief of Police. You know, you've heard some of the details today, and over the last 24 hours, we had approximately 400 officers in the French Quarter. And as we know, this is not just an act of terrorism. This is evil. And when we face evil, we have a choice. We can run in fear, or we can indeed stand in strength. In a time of crisis, people are looking for leadership. You are looking at the leadership. And I promise you, as the chief of police of this city has been tried by fire before. But fire purifies. Fire makes things stronger. We have a plan. We know what to do. We are going to get these people.
Okay, here we go.
There is a path forward. Very pleased that we will be back to having a wonderful game tomorrow night. New Orleans police have proven their ability to make the city safer. Just 2 years ago, we were the murder capital of America. Today, from that time 2 years ago, we have driven our rate more than 50% down. So we have a track record. But this is different because it's terrorism. Now, I want to thank all of our law enforcement partners. You're fabulous, and we appreciate the partnership. But last night, 3 of our officers engaged this terrorist who shot at them. 3 of the officers returned fire. Those officers did not run in fear. I liked what the mayor said this morning. New Orleans police and all law enforcement is built. We are built for dealing with evil, with things that would cause others to be in fear. But instead, our officers, and last night NOPD in particular, stood strong. They did not run. They did kill the terrorist. We have 2 officers indeed who received gunfire. They will be okay. We have personally gone to see them. But this is leadership for you. And I promise, as the chief of police of this fantastic city, that I will be strong and firm and fearless. Thank you.
Thank you. In wrapping it up, I want to just close with a couple of things. I want to thank Senator Kennedy and Congressman Carter. I want to thank again all of our law enforcement officers out there. I want the families of the victims to know that I will be issuing an executive order that tomorrow, when Notre Dame plays Georgia, every flag of every state building in this state is going to be at half-mast. In remembrance of them, but remembering something else. That fear in this state is a liar. And these folks right here are going to make sure that justice is served. And for the citizens out there that were saying, well, man, do I really want to go to the Sugar Bowl tomorrow? I tell you one thing, your governor's going to be there. That is proof, believe you me, that that facility in this city is safer today than it was yesterday. And as we come to additional events in this city, I know in speaking with Senator Kennedy and Congressman Carter, and FBI acting director, and the incoming administration, that they are going to ensure that this city has the resources necessary to protect our citizens and our guests. And so with that, we'll take some questions.
All right, if you could, we'll start over here with CBS. Katie, we'll work our way across the room. If I miss you, just give me a holler. I may not see you. Go ahead, Katie.
Thank you, sir. Katie Weiss with CBS News. I mean, I think this has been a really tough day for a lot of people, but at this point, we're hearing that the death toll, according to some FBI sources, has gone up to 15. Is this true?
Who wants to answer?
I can speak to it, because unless you have a final number. We do not have a final number. We know that we have confirmed 10, but we did have people who had been transported who were in critical condition. And so I do not know that, but I can confirm 10.
And one quick follow-up question, if I may. We know that there have been some local records in Texas about a misdemeanor background on this suspect. Any signs or warnings ahead of time about this person or their plans for what happened this morning?
Because that is the investigation part, I will give the FBI.
At this time, we cannot go into details about the subject's history. What I can tell you, the person was an Army veteran. We believe he was honorary discharged, but we're working through this process, figuring out all this information. The goal with the FBI is providing you with the most accurate and complete information. So once that information is confirmed, we'll make sure we push that out. Thank you.
Ariel.
At this time, do you know exactly, as far as the victims, how many are from here in Louisiana versus out of state, and their ages maybe?
At this time, I can't go into details about all the victims. We want to make sure that the family is notified appropriately before we put any information out there. So once the families are all notified, then we'll go ahead and release a statement to everyone.
And I would ask the press, in relation to the victims and those that are in hospitals, you could just refrain from worrying about them so their loved ones can take care of them, and the medical personnel that are trying to get them out of the hospital can do so. And as information becomes available, we want to respect the privacy of those who are still either fighting for their lives or being cared for. Thank you.
A follow-up, if I may.
Go ahead.
You guys mentioned accomplices. You don't think that the suspect acted alone. About how many more suspects are you guys looking into at this point?
It's a range of suspects. Right now with the FBI, we do not want to rule anything out. So that's why we're asking if anyone has had any interaction with the deceased subject Jabbar in the last 72 hours. Provide us with this information. You can provide us that information.
Thank you for tuning in to the live show. You know what time it is. It is your boy Genesis. Everybody double tap your screen, subscribe to the channel, and join the memberships if you can. It is $4.99. With that being said, I just read someone's comments here that said the agent, I don't want to say, well, fuck it. CIA agent later at Trump's rally in Pennsylvania was unqualified. This last 4 years, this is my personal opinion. This is my perspective. This is what I've observed. In the last 4 years, this Biden administration, the world has witnessed some sort of weakness in the United States. This is just facts. Okay? But this is my opinion, though. It's not, global truth or whatever. But one thing I do know is if I was in Iraq or Iran or some other country and I'm watching everything going on in the United States, I'm watching the leader of the free world, the commander-in-chief, falling off stairs, falling off stages, sleeping in Angola, sleeping in forums, sleeping on world stage. There is no way I wouldn't, want to try something. Because you feel like there's weakness around. Look at the Afghanistan withdrawal. It was a disaster. Okay. Know what I mean? It was a disaster. So now check it out. Now, the 47th president-elect had how many attempts on his life? How many attempts did he have on his life? 2, potentially 3. During the United States presidential election, where these guys are fully protected. So it's like, this last 4 years, I'm not trying to fear monger anybody else. This is fear mongering. No, this is just what I've noticed. This is my perspective. This is what I've observed. Like I said, it's how the slang this new Gen Z would say, it's given weakness. Okay, I'm sure you've heard that slang from your kid or some, I don't know. somebody on, I don't know, maybe your church or something. It's giving weakness. That's what it's giving. Straight up incompetence. Okay. I mean, look at the lady that was trying to put her gun back in the holster during Trump's attack in Pennsylvania. It took her, what, 5 tries, and she still couldn't do it. I mean, dear Lord Jesus, what is going on right here? But this is what we get. Oh, I don't want Trump back in the White House. Well, this is what you get. And don't forget, this is still Joe Biden's administration, okay? Like, it's been back to back to back to back to back to back to back. New York subway, back to back. Luigi Mangione, y'all forgot about Luigi Mangione, right? I'm sure. Because now it's like, new stuff is always like you would think Luigi Mangione would have been like the baddest SHIT ever. Now you're seeing more stuff. It's like, golly. I thought Luigi was bad. Like, you saw the guy that set someone ablaze on the subway in New York. You would think that's like the worst thing that could ever happen. And then you watch this. And then you see a Cybertruck filled with explosive and fireworks explode in front of Trump Tower. You would think that's the worst thing that could ever happen. Hopefully. Hopefully that's the worst thing that ever happened. Hopefully. Because now it's 18 days to go before the OG comes back to the White House. I just hope that everything is secured for him during the inauguration, because I can't even, it's like, Jesus. The inauguration, it better be warriors everywhere. It better be National Guards everywhere looking like the movie The Jackal. Have you seen The Day of the Jackal? Who has seen the TV show The Days of the Jackal? I need snipers like that around, checking people out and making sure there is no BS going on. Because that man has to get to the White House safe and sound. So all of this BS, because once he's in the White House and he can sign executive orders, he can make moves, it's over.
E.J. Antoni, Heritage Foundation public finance economist, is here. This has been a conversation, EJ, for quite some time now, that if the package is broken up into 2 CRs, the taxes come later, it could be towards the end of 2025, Americans will suffer. What does it take to get this all into 1 CR and pass it quickly?
Well, Jackie, I think we just got to get our priorities straight, right? People need to realize, I should say, the folks in Congress need to realize that people need tax relief, and they need it now. We're facing a genuine cost of living crisis, and getting taxes down is one of the best ways to actually get the cost of living down for so many of these folks. And if we don't get this legislation across the finish line in one way, shape, or form, then you're going to see exactly what you just said, American families facing a double-digit percentage tax increase. It's not a good situation. Again, we need to get this done, and it needs to be the #1 priority. It wasn't in the first Trump admin, if you remember, and it was an absolute miracle that they got it done at all.
Speaking of taxes, Steve Forbes and Stephen Moore have a great op-ed in the Wall Street Journal this morning advocating for a 15% flat tax. What do you make of that?
I think it's a great idea. The tax code is so insanely overcomplicated. If you include not only what's in statute, but then also the regulations that surround the tax code, it is a multiple of the combined word count of the Bible, all the Harry Potter books, you name it, Lord of the Rings.
Wow.
You can throw all these War and Peace, throw all these famous pieces of
that's a deep
literature
one.
and sacred scripture together, and the tax code is actually much larger than all of that. So anything we can do to simplify that, to get away from that, is a good thing, and moving to a flat rate with no deductions would be the best way to do it.
I don't know if Rob Gronkowski is a literature guy, but I think I saw him post on X that he wants a simpler tax code as well. So everybody's on board with this, English majors and not. Let me ask you about this, EJ. The debt ceiling apparently kicks in at midnight tonight. You think this is a pretty big deal and could hit us in terms of policy right away? What's your thought on this?
Well, it was an absolute disaster, right? The way they designed this deal so that they would suspend the debt ceiling until right now, and then it would instantly kick in. And not only is it restarting, but it's starting at the current debt limit, Brian. In other words, the Treasury won't be able to borrow anymore after January 1. Now, fortunately, we are anticipating several big revenue hits to come onto the Treasury's books, so that'll give us some more breathing room. But still, you're going to have to start using extraordinary measures sometime in the month of January. And that's particularly problematic when Janet Yellen has run down the cash account of the Treasury by about $1 trillion since Biden took office. So there's a lot less wiggle room here, I think, than people realize. Now, again, you have many months with extraordinary measures, but that's not the kind of pressure you want to put on the incoming Treasury Secretary.
EJ, the housing market's been troubling for quite some time when it comes to the overall economy. This is something Trump is going to focus on next year. Bill Ackman is suggesting that he might privatize Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae. Walk me through how that would change things materially and whether the impact would be substantially more positive.
Well, much like the debt ceiling deal, having these quasi-public-private institutions is something that never should have happened in the first place. But here we are. So how do we unring that bell, so to speak? I think you need to slowly introduce this idea back into markets that, look, we are no longer going to privatize profits and socialize losses, which is effectively what happens with these companies, these, again, quasi-public-private entities. So I think you need to set a future date when you're effectively going to return all of these things to the private market. And that's going to do a couple of key positive things for those markets, not the least of which is it is going to make investors, I think, much more aware of what they are investing in. What I mean by that is they're going to actually want to look into what is the quality of the mortgage-backed securities that we're investing in. Where exactly is our money going when it enters the black box that is Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac? That is something that didn't happen in the lead up to the housing crisis, and that was a key contributor to that crisis.
EJ, set us up for people at home trying to figure out the outlook for the economy in 2025. I looked at your latest post on X, and you say manufacturing is still contracting as we're closing out 2024. People, though, keep hearing that the economy is expected to improve next year. How did the fundamentals look to you?
The fundamentals right now are not great. Now, that's not to say that expectations and future sentiment are doing bad. They're not. They're doing tremendous ever since November, actually, right after Trump got elected again. All of those future-looking indicators have soared.
Thanks.
There's no doubt about that. The problem is future expectations, that idea, whether it's consumer sentiment or business sentiment, those hopes do not pay the bills today. And so for a lot of businesses, they're still in trouble today. A lot of consumers are still strapped today. And it's going to take us a while to work our way out of the hole that we've dug over the last several years with failed public policies, whether that's the massive debt on the federal government side or the massive debt on the consumer side, where we have over $1 trillion just in credit card debt, even though the interest rate on those credit cards is at a record high. So again, it's going to take, I think, quite a while to work our way out of this hole. It's not that I'm bearish on everything. I'm very, very hopeful about the future of this country and the future of the American consumer. But again, it's going to take us some time, especially when we start finding out about all of the economic data that we've had so far that has been overinflated, like the jobs numbers. As that truth continues to come out, again, we'll realize that we're in pretty bad shape.
EJ, you do a great job of living in the
Mm, mm. This is 100% facts because if you think about it, most people have credit card debt. The great news is Trump has said that he wants to cap credit card debt to 10%. Credit card interest rate, okay, not credit card debt. Credit card interest rate to 10%. And I think that would really, really help a lot of people, including myself, because I do have credit card debt. And working your way out of credit card debt if you're like if you have so many situations going on, like if you have kids, if you have sick family members, or a lot of stuff going on, you would have to make sure that you work your butt off. You work your butt off, y'all, because credit card ain't no joke. But once you pay off your credit card, it just helps your credit. It helps your credit, and then you could do more stuff with good credit. But if you have bad credit in the United States, nah, you ain't gonna go nowhere. But anyway, back to New Orleans. I just wanted to talk about money a little bit. And I know most of y'all watching right now have credit card debt. So y'all have credit card debt.
President-elect Donald Trump delivered his first response to the tragic
Trump
attack
has reacted,
on Bourbon Street in a Truth Social post this morning. He's also using the post to make claims about the attacker that we have not heard backed up yet by law enforcement sources, some diverging from what we've heard from law enforcement sources. Elena Trine is live in West Palm Beach with the latest from the president-elect and his team. Elena, what more are you hearing right now about what's happening inside the president's team?
Well, Phil, I was told that Donald Trump has been receiving regular updates on the situation on the ground in New Orleans. He is being briefed on this by a source familiar with the matter. But I want to read for you what Donald Trump posted this morning in reaction to everything that's unfolding down there in New Orleans. He wrote, quote, "Our hearts are with all of the innocent victims and their loved ones, including the brave officers of the New Orleans Police Department. The Trump administration will fully support the city of New Orleans as they investigate and recover from this act of pure evil." Now, as you mentioned, Phil, Donald Trump also kind of commented on the crime rate in the United States. I'm going to read this for you too as well and then explain a bit. So he said, quote, "When I said that the criminals coming in are far worse than the criminals we have in our country, that statement was constantly refuted by Democrats and the fake news media, but it turned out to be true. The crime rate in our country is at a level that nobody has seen before." Now, to be clear, we actually have some new reporting from our colleagues Evan Perez and Priscilla Alvarez, and they are reporting that the suspect in Wednesday's deadly New Orleans crowd attack was a U.S. citizen, according to a source familiar with the matter as well, telling that to our colleagues. So, look, I think, there's still a lot of questions that need to be answered here. Officials have not really released additional information on the suspect, but he is a U.S. citizen. So that part of Donald Trump's statement kind of speculating about the suspect's identity, we're told is not true. He is a U.S. citizen. But Donald Trump, of course, weighing in and saying that his incoming administration will do what they can to help with this investigation, Phil.
All right, Elena Trine for us live in West Palm Beach. Joining me now is CNN's chief law enforcement analyst and former police chief of Washington, D.C. and former Philadelphia police commissioner, Charles Ramsey. Charles, I'd like to avoid going down the rabbit hole of picking sentences that aren't necessarily accurate or trying to ascribe political motivations when we don't know them, and focus instead on this is kind of an unsettling time where an administration is about to leave. A new administration is coming in. Both administrations pledging their full support to New Orleans, to law enforcement. Does that create any difficulty on the ground, kind of being in this transition phase for federal resources, for what local officials are able to do from an investigative perspective?
Not really. I mean, when you set aside people using an event like this for political purposes, as far as law enforcement is concerned, the FBI is always there for us. The ATF is always there. The state police are always there. Our focus is on solving crime. The focus is getting to the bottom of what took place. That has nothing to do with politics. That's just policing. And so this will have absolutely no bearing at all on this investigation.
When you look at what we know about the investigation up to this point, both what we've seen in terms of the video, what we've gotten from updates, what we've gotten from reporting from our colleagues Evan Perez, Priscilla Alvarez, and others, what's your sense of where things stand right now in terms of what law enforcement officials actually know and what they need to learn in the hours ahead?
Well, I think they know a lot more than we know right now, because the feds do not use the term terrorism lightly. So they've got some information that really causes them to now feel comfortable saying that this was an act of terrorism, because they would be going by the guidelines and the law, the federal law that really covers that sort of thing. So having said that, there are a lot of things going on right now. First of all, we don't know the name of the suspect, but I'm sure they do. And so there are search warrants being executed, maybe in New Orleans, maybe places in Texas, certainly that vehicle that was used. They're going through a lot of video to find out more about the suspect's movement. In other words, working backwards to find out where that person's coming from. Was he in the crowd earlier? Because depending on where they found those IEDs, if they weren't in the car, if they were placed elsewhere, that means he had to actually walk through there and place them prior to the actual attack. I don't know the answers to any of this, but that's the kind of stuff that you see going on right now in law enforcement. But there's something going on in terms of the information that caused the FBI to now label this as a terrorist act.
With the understanding that we don't know what that information may be, can you give people an idea of what could constitute that kind of information? And I ask because the initial press conference this morning, the FBI official did not label it as being investigated as an act of terrorism. That obviously has shifted. What is it that could drive a change when you talk about labeling it something like this?
Well, first of all, earlier when the ASAC, or the assistant special agent in charge, said this is not an act of terrorism, this is early in the investigation. At that point in time, didn't have enough information to actually label it, and would rather just not call it that, even though the mayor may have. But again, you know, her definition of what a terrorist act is versus what the federal definition is could be quite different. And certainly now they've gotten to a motive. Was it politically motivated? Was it based on religion? Unlikely, since he's plowing into a major, into just a crowd of people. But there's something in the motive that made them designate this as a terrorist event. Did he have connections elsewhere, either inside or outside of the United States, with a known terrorist organization? These are unanswered questions, but there's something there that we may find out about at the next press conference. Then again, we may not, because if they're looking for other people that may have had some, you know, some role, maybe not a direct role, but some other kind of role in this thing, they want to get their hands on them as quickly as possible before they divulge too much information, so they can debrief them and really get to the bottom of this.
The use of a vehicle as a weapon, and a weapon that creates, obviously, both tragedy and horror, as we saw overnight. We see it more in places like Europe and foreign countries than we've seen it as much here at home. How does law enforcement prepare for something like this?
Well, I mean, it's difficult, but you do the best that you can, and that's why. And again, this isn't being critical of the New Orleans Police Department at all. Everyone does the best they can. There are a lot of events taking place around the country because of New Year's yesterday, and some perhaps use techniques that others don't use. We learn from one another. But one of the things you do to at least prevent a vehicle from being used is barriers that can withstand an impact of a vehicle. Now, it's my understanding they have bollards there, but those bollards were being replaced. They were actually upgrading the infrastructure, scheduled to be ready in February, probably in time for Mardi Gras. But that leaves a vulnerability for New Year's Eve. It leaves a vulnerability for other types of things that might happen on Bourbon Street or elsewhere once that is no longer there. So what do? In addition to the kind of barricades you saw, you know, trash trucks, police cars, whatever you can to block streets so that a vehicle cannot go down there, as long as you have crowds of people. And we've all been to Bourbon Street. I mean, it's not that wide a street. And when you're, you know, you get this huge concentration of people. If a vehicle gets in there, you've got a serious problem. And so they would do what they can to try to block it off to prevent a vehicle of any type being able to get in. So what we need to know is, was that in place earlier? Which is why now it's 3 o'clock or 3:15 in the morning, and some of that was removed, which made it more vulnerable, and this person knew that. Or was it ever there? We just don't know the answers to that. But that vehicle got in there, and that's something that really departments across the country are going to be reevaluating their security to make sure that they take this into account. If nothing else, copycats.
Have you seen, to that point, and with an acknowledgement of the information that we don't have right now, have you seen anything that leads you to believe that there was more advanced planning, that there was a more expansive effort underway before the attack actually happened to prepare this attack?
Haven't seen it on video, but video would really reveal, because they got video cameras everywhere down in that part of the city. So you would be able to clearly see whether or not, more than likely, it would have been vehicles blocking the street. Could have been concrete barriers, but concrete barriers are difficult to move. And there are legitimate reasons why a vehicle would go down that street. You've got bars, you've got restaurants, you've got delivery trucks. But if you've got a vehicle there that's actually, with personnel in it, they can move out of the way and let authorized vehicles in and then close it off again. I don't know if that was in place at midnight, for an example, when you had the larger crowd versus 3 o'clock in the morning. I also don't know their personnel strength. Many departments in this country are understaffed. So I would imagine many of the officers that were used last night had to be double back and be there for the Sugar Bowl tonight. And so you would relieve them at some point in time so they can get some rest and then be deployed again the next day. I don't know the answer to that. I would certainly understand if that was the case. There was still a lot of police officers on the ground. The question is whether or not there was adequate steps taken to avoid having a vehicle be able to enter Bourbon Street from any place.
Yeah, certainly one of the questions that'll need to be answered in the hours ahead. Chief Charles Ramsey, thanks so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning into the live show. You know what time it is. It is your boy Genesis. I was just trying to see the next video, and I'm seeing Trump at the Mar-a-Lago 2024/2025 New Year's Eve conversation. He, of course, he always he has to do an interview. Trump, he likes to talk to the press.
All of these things, and then you take a look at all of the other problems that they caused. The problems that they caused in this country, and specifically Iran on the border. Millions and millions of people that flowed through our border, from prisons, from mental institutions.
This man right here loves the country, and this is just the facts. This is the facts. He loves the country, and this is the facts. But it is what it is. Everybody's going to have something to say about him, regardless of what he does, what he says. People are always going to have something to say. And it's a new year, man. According to the people in the chat, they're saying get ready for some sort of situation going on in 2025. Like, y'all just making everything. I can't imagine the blood must got this. My man. The OG, y'all. The OG, y'all. The OG. Look at him. And they've definitely made it harder for him in 2025 to 2028. It's going to be a lot of work for him to do.
We're going to see some amazing things, but we're going to bring it back at a level that a lot of people didn't think was really possible. That's
all right, so where we go? Let me see. Oh, okay.
So that really led to his downfall.
What are you looking forward to in 2025?
Well, just great, a great year. I think we're going to do fantastically well as a country. We're going to bring it back. It has to be brought back. People are not respecting our country very much, and they're going to respect us a lot. I think a lot of progress has been made over the last 5 weeks. It's been pretty amazing when you look at what's happened. There's a whole light over the whole world.
People are not respecting our country, and they're going to respect our country. And this is just the fact, okay? This is the fact about Trump.
Well, as you know,
he knows.
Most of them are being thought of very highly, just about all of them. So I think we're going to do very well.
You said that he said he's eager to meet with you. Are you planning a meeting with him?
Well, I don't know. There's a traditional national meeting. Some people would say we already had that. You know, we met a week and a half ago.
The music can't even let us hear what he's saying. But anyway, you've heard from the OG. I cannot wait for him to get into office so we can get like real work done. Real work done. Because there would be no rest for him. I can tell you that much. For this next 4 years, there will be absolutely no rest for him. And the fact that he's been campaigning to be the next president for like 2-3 years now, and now he has to do more work. Yeah, it is what it is, man. This is the life he chose. You choose your life and you rock with it. You choose the life you want to live, and then you rock with whatever comes with it. Anyway, it is your boy Genesis. Thank you for tuning into the live show. You know what time it is. It is your boy Genesis. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Join the membership if you can, and double tap your screen, subscribe to the channel. And we will be back here for sure later today. Just look forward, everyone, and have yourself many years ahead. Could be worse. We could be struck with Kamala Harris. Oh, hell no. Oh, bling, hell no. Hell no, dope. No, 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 no. Anyway, instead of looking for perfection, seek for consistency. Never give up on yourself. Never give up on your dreams. Never give up on God. Believe in yourself. Believe in your dreams. And believe in God, okay? Stay strong, people. Life is hard, but stay strong. Look at the 45th, now the 47th president-elect. He stood strong, and now he is the next president of the United States. So stay strong. Don't fold. Keep working. Stay disciplined. Take care of your family. Take care of your kids, okay? If anything goes wrong, make sure you take care of your kids, all right? Take care of your kids. God bless the United States. God bless everybody watching right now. Thank you to the veterans. Thank you to the military. And I will be back. I will be back. Thank you, guys. I am out.